Good morning, good morning, good morning. Whoa, what a great day. What a wonderful day. And man, I am excited about the word that I'm going to share this morning. So as always, I'm encouraging you, come on and share. Maybe send somebody a little text and tell them to tune in, that they need some good news. And, maybe they are facing something, and we want to equip you. We want to encourage you to move through and, embrace all that God has for you. All right. So, I just want to let you know as you are tuning in, and especially if you are part of the dwelling place tomorrow, that is Wednesday, 6:30 p.m. We'll be having our midweek gathering, and it'll still be online. We've been talking about the gifts that God has given His church, His people, and so I want you to tune in tomorrow. We're gonna be talking about the evangelists, and man, I'm telling you, it's gonna be so good. So you want to tune in, set your clock, set your alarm that you will be able to be with us. All right. And then, of course, we're going to be back on Sunday, 10 a.m. And so, if you're anywhere near the Evansville area, I'm giving you an invitation to come and join us at the dwelling place. And you can go to my profile and you'll get some information about that. And we'd love for you to be with us. Okay. Well, I want to go and get started. I'm going to go and get started. And so I appreciate you people, you wonderful people, that you give me some time on Tuesday mornings. And and so I don't take it for granted. I don't take it for granted. And I pray, that some of the things that I talk about, it does add value to your life, that maybe it gives you some answers to certain things that you are going through. So it's good to see Alma and Wendy and Donna and Dawn and Sandra and Savoria and Marlon. And that's who I can put up on my screen, but we're going in a couple of other places, so I don't always get those names. I want you all to keep some people in prayer. We've been praying. I want to be praying for Michael and Misty Johnston right now. They've been battling something, and so we were just declaring health and wholeness to them in the name of Jesus. All right. Well, I've talked. Let's get going. Let's jump into what we're going to be talking about. Are there certain things that have taken place in your life years ago? Might have seemed wasn't that big a deal, but somehow or another it is just locked in your memory, and every now and then it just comes to the surface. And I was thinking about when my children, and in particular my daughters, very young, what, 5, 6, I don't know, 7. But we had a wonderful pediatrician. Kathy loved him. His name was Dr. Amandos. And so, he took care of our girls. And at this point in time, Monica was very petite. And so Dr. Amandos said she needed to put on some weight. And I don't know if there were some things that he was concerned about, becoming anemic or something along those lines. And so when we would go see the doctor, their lab is downstairs, and it's not like you're going through a dark spot or anything else like that. It's lit up, very, very nice, but the labs were downstairs. And because when Monica would go occasionally, they'd have to draw blood, and Monica did not like them putting that needle in and drawing blood. And so when she had finished with this appointment, um, I had to take her downstairs to get blood drawn. And she'd always have this sigh of relief if she didn't have to get blood that day. And so I've got her hand, and we're walking down those stairs, and she knows what those stairs mean. I'm going to the lab. They're going to stick me with that needle. And so just as little as she could be, she looks up at me and she says, "Dad, am I going to get a shot?" And, there's no way I was going to lie to her. I said, "Yeah." I said, "But I will be with you. I will be with you." And so when we get downstairs, it's loaded. It's a good amount of kids down there getting some kind of labs. And so me and Monica, we are waiting. And this lady had two daughters, young daughters, and one had just gotten her shot and just hollering, "Ah!" And I was looking at the other parents and they're like, "Kid, we want you to shut up because our kid is still going to have to go get a shot." And so the girl's sister turns to her mother and says, "Is it going to hurt?" And the one who had just gotten a shot, and the mother says, "It's not going to hurt. It's not going to hurt that bad." And the girl says, the other one who had got the shot, she started hollering, "She's lying. She's lying. It does hurt. It does hurt. It does hurt." And I'm looking at Monica. And so when they call Monica's name, I go in there with her, and she's little enough that I put her on my knee, on my lap, and then the doctor draws the blood, and we come out. And it wasn't that bad, but she did cry. She did cry. And most of it was a place of imagination. It was not that bad. And it was something that was necessary. And this just had me kind of thinking and meditating on that, about the fear of something, the imagination of something, how often it keeps us from moving forward. Just the imagination of, this is going to hurt. I'm going to be embarrassed. There's all kinds of things that go on in our heads. And the adversary uses that to stop us from being everything that God has called us to be. Or maybe you've experienced something in the past and it was painful. And because of that, you want to avoid that with everything inside of you. We've got people that they don't want to go back to church because they experienced some kind of betrayal. They experienced some pain in the church. We call it church hurt. And they never want to step back into the church. And so the adversary uses that imagination, that thought, to keep them from God. I just want to kind of touch on that. And I want to use, just for a point of reference, it is out of the 23rd Psalm. And when you look at verse 4, the writer says, "Now, yea," and this is a Psalm of David, "Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. You are with me, and your rod and your staff, they comfort me." I just want to kind of use that with even what was happening with Monica. And it's funny to me now when I look at her and I look at how strong she is and how courageous she is and how she faces things and she's willing to go after certain things. And I was thinking about those days when she was just a little girl, and she's not frail anymore because she walked through it. She walked through it. And so I want to just talk about the shadow of death. The shadow of death. And as we start looking at this passage of scripture, the shadow of death. When you start studying something, you begin to discover a lot of things. There's some things that you were assuming, and then you start getting a little bit of a breakdown. A couple of thoughts on shadows, and we're going to pull all of this together. One of the commentaries talks about, simply speaking, A shadow is an absence of light. If light cannot get through an object, the surface on the other side of that object, for example, the ground, a wall, will have less light reaching it. So, and then this is one of the things I really want you to grab. A shadow is not a reflection, even though it is often the same size as the object, but it is not a reflection. It is a place where something is blocking light. Lord talks about this or Isaiah writes about it. He says, the people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. Those who dwelt in the land of the shadow of death, upon them a light has shined. And something you can kind of grab, he says, those who dwelt in the land of the shadow of death. The psalmist says, we walk through the valley of the shadow of death. Isaiah says, some people have they've lived in that place. And when they live in that place, it brings stagnation. It opens them up for fear, all of those things. And it'll also bring a place of poverty of spirit, financial poverty, because you are dwelling in this valley, this land of the shadow of death, as opposed to just going through it. All right, so I just want to give a couple of other thoughts. So shadows are formed when light is stopped by an object. So there is light, but something is blocking the light. And I want you to, the reason I'm talking about that is because there is light, even though it feels very dark. In my studies, it says there are three requirements to form a shadow. Number one, there has to be a source of light. If there is no light, there will not be a shadow. Number two, there is an opaque object. There's something to obstruct the path of light. And then the third thing is there is a screen on which the shadow can be seen, as I was talking about the ground, the wall, or whatever. Those three things are necessary to form a shadow. Characteristics of a shadow. It is always erect. I like that. It is always erect, same side up as the object. It is another characteristic is irrespective of the color of the object, the shadow is always black. It is always black. And then a shadow can be smaller, equal, or bigger than the object. And then shadow is formed on the opposite side of the source of light. So I want us, and I'm hoping you all can put some of this stuff together. I want you all to begin to see this. This thing about a shadow. Now, take it out of the natural, because everybody has experienced a shadow. Everybody has experienced a shadow. And then there are sometimes you know, according to the size of the shadow or what portion of light that comes through, then it feels like that image, that shadow is distorted from what the light is shining on, you know, from the real image. So I'm walking down the street. And there's a shadow behind me. My shadow is coming on the ground or coming on the wall. But then if I pass by another object, there's a portion of my shadow gets distorted. And so now my shadow does not look like me anymore. And you're trying to figure out what this is. Well, can we apply this with life? Can we apply this with And I am convinced whenever you are moving to something that is new, when you are moving with something that is different, I'm convinced many times you have to go through this valley of the shadow of death. Uh, but the thing that I have told myself is it's only a shadow. Come on, I want y'all to say that right now. It's only a shadow. I want you to get that in your spirit. When you're about to embrace something new, it's only a shadow. My sister just moved from Evansville to Evansville from Chicago. And I could only imagine what was going on in her head leading up to this move. She's lived in Chicago all of her life. And even though she has visited Evansville so many times, there are thoughts that are coming in her head about, is this going to work out? What are going to be some of the changes? And for some people, when they experience something like that, it'll cause them not to move forward. It'll cause them not to move forward because all of a sudden their imaginations are running wild. And the thought is just like with Monica, it was like, this shot is going to hurt. It's going to hurt. It's going to be pain. And to me, when I look at that picture and we get downstairs and this girl is just hollering and her mother tries to calm her sister down and says, it's going to be okay. And the girl says, she's lying. She's lying. It does hurt. That's what happens with us as we are walking through certain things. We'll hear these voices, and we're listening to voices from certain perspectives. And so my thought was, when I'm walking with Monica, I'm saying, we need to get this blood work done. I'm not going to just tell you, you don't have to do it. No, we're going to do it. But I'm with you. I'm going to make sure you're not going to get hurt. I'm going to be there to protect you. And so as you are moving towards the things of God, I want you all to have a confidence that God is with you. So I just want to close and just highlight a couple of things from that verse. Number one, you have to walk through. Come on, somebody says, I got to walk through it. You have to walk through it, even though there is the thought of it's going to be unpleasant. Is this something that God has called me to do? I've had some friends, they've had some, they had some issues maybe with a knee or a hip. It was deteriorating, arthritis, whatever was the case. And they had learned how to kind of live with that, where there's the pain, the limp. And at some point in time, they get to the point where they're saying, well, I'm going to go and get surgery. Almost each and every one of them, they say, I just wish I'd have done it sooner. I just wish I'd have done it sooner. Well, because part of what was going on is they could endure it. They could endure it. But at the same time, there is some thoughts, man, I don't want anybody cutting on my body. I don't want to. And they said, I wish I'd have done it sooner. So there are things you have to walk through. You've got to be able to find out, is God calling me to walk through this? And so sometimes you can't go around. You got to go through it. You got to go through it. You've got to face the bill collector. You got to go through it, and you may experience the favor of God. There are things that you're going to have to confront. You're going to have these conversations, and don't dread it. It could bring a breakthrough. So number one, you've got to walk through it. Number two is what we've been talking about. It is a shadow. It's the valley of the shadow of death. It is not the valley of death. It is not the valley of death. It's the shadow of death. There is, and listen, and there is light on the other side of it. Are you all hearing me? There is light. Something is blocking the light. But that shadow can't even be there if there was no light. So it's only a shadow, and it's not death. The other portion is, it says, I will fear no evil. I am not going to allow fear to determine my steps. Now, yeah, I want to be sober. I want to use wisdom, but I am not going to let fear to keep me from what God has promised me. So the shadow wants to make people afraid, and it is because of the imaginations. And many times, remember, sometimes the shadow is larger than the object. And then the last portion is, I am not alone. And sometimes those shadows feel like they are so much greater than you. But there is a place where we settle. I am not alone. God is with me. My Father is with me. I wonder, did Monica say to herself, okay, I got to do this. Dad is saying we've got to do this, but my dad's with me. My daddy's with me. And with that thought, God is with me and he is armed. He is armed. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. I look and I say, okay, I've seen my Father deal with bigger things than this. And he has the ability to keep me. And so I just pray, maybe some of maybe this was a light message, but I'm praying maybe somebody is facing something new. They're facing something new. Maybe God is urging you into something. Maybe there are some things that you have tried to avoid, and you felt like you were hurt in the past or whatever, and you want to stay away from it. You want to stay away from it. I was talking to a friend the other day, and saved but don't really go to church. And so I asked the question why, and they started talking about preachers wanting money, and then you find out they're having affairs and everything else like that. And so I asked the question, and I am closing with this. I asked the question: if you go to a bad restaurant, maybe you had bad service, you had a bad experience, food was not good, do you make up your mind you'll never go to a restaurant again? I'm not talking about that restaurant, but you'll never go to any other restaurants. You won't try any other restaurants. They said, no, that's not how I think. I just know that restaurant. I said, that could be the deal with the church you went to, the pastor that you're with. Just saying, okay, I'm not going to be with that guy anymore. But there are a lot of good restaurants. There are a lot of good restaurants. There are a lot of great restaurants. And I want to tell you, there are a lot of good pastors and shepherds. And there are some really good churches as well. And so maybe you'll share this with someone, and maybe I want to encourage them. Ask God to lead you, and he'll lead you to a right place. All right. And you will experience the goodness of the Lord. So I bless God's people. I just declare the blessing and the favor of God upon your lives. I pray right now that each and every one of us, that we will not be afraid and we will not be controlled by shadows, that we will be listening to the one who is with us as he encourages us. All right. And even now, Lord, I'm asking you that you will grab people out of the land of where they've been dwelling in the land of the shadow of death. That you would grab them and lead them to a good place, a fruitful place. All right. Appreciate your time. going to have a great day. All right. Love you. And as always, now go and take on the day.